she had to apply automations and then like manually edit every single one. You can now set up an automation that goes to all travelers on a trip or all full access travelers on a trip as individual threads with a first name variable that actually works, which is so huge.
Departing agents can now still view bookings from the agency that they're leaving. So that ensures transparency.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Flight Path. We are so excited that you are here, and we have kind of a little bit of a fresh take. Some of you in the Facebook community saw that we posted earlier this week, I guess, like what ideas do you have on how we can take Flight Path and make it even better? And so we loved how many comments were like, we love it just the way that it is. Don't worry, we're not making any crazy changes. But we heard, people want more guests. They want more sort of tips and tricks. And so literally turning that around this week, we've got a guest in Ellen, who will introduce herself here in just a second. We're going to do a tips and tricks section. But just to give you sort of a preview on what is on the docket today, we're going to be talking, of course, first and foremost about what we shipped this week. Lots of features for group messaging, for improving the mobile app. And so you won't want to miss those. But then we'll also do our first tips and tricks session where Ellen will take us through some of the things that she wished more people knew as they engaged with support. And then, of course, we'll wrap up with what is coming up. So that's what you have to look forward to over the next 30 to 40 minutes here on Flight Path. With that, Ellen, welcome to the podcast, fulfilling a lifelong dream, I think, here. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Hello. It is a lifelong dream, for sure. Hi, everyone. It's me. I'm Ellen. That's my catchphrase, so I had to say it. Everyone at Tern knows this. But I've been on Tern's customer support team. It's coming up on 2 years, guys. It'll be 2 years in like 2 weeks.
Is it really? Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun. What else should I say? What did I do before I joined Tern?
Where do you live, maybe? I don't know, any fun facts about yourself?
Yeah, okay. I live in New York City. Before I joined Tern, I was a software engineer and a part-time florist. So I've kind of merged technical background, people skills to do what I do at Tern, and it's been like the best 2 years. I love Tern, love our team, love our users. If we haven't met, would love to meet you. I've met a good amount of people at this point, but always happy to meet more.
We are so excited to have Ellen sort of leading our first ever, kind of tips and tricks session, because having been here for 2 years, veteran, it's crazy long time in Tern tenure, if you will. But it's also really funny because Ellen has joked about my goal is to be on Flight Path. Someday I want to be on Flight Path. And so yesterday when I messaged her, I was like, are you ready for your big break? The excitement that got in Slack. It was next thing you know, it was in company channels. We're glad you're here, Ellen. And hopefully this episode doesn't disappoint. I think you promised that this would get more views or watches than the Taylor Travis Kelce announcement. So we're, I think, going to hold you to that, right?
Millions of views. Yeah. What I'll do is I'll just play it on repeat on my own device. So it gets as many views.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Honestly, let's boost the stats. Then I can tell everyone that Flight Path 2.0 is obviously working. So we're glad you're here. And as always, we've got Molly, our head of product. I should also have noted at the beginning, Brad you mentioned this last week, I was out in South Africa, so he's not here, but we are sending him the best of wishes and can't wait to hear about the trip on the way back. But Molly, let's kick off with week in review. How was your week?
Man, it feels like so much happened this week. I feel like we say that every single week. I miss Brad. He's like my little second brain. Whenever I get stuck on a problem, I'm like, Brad, help me. And he just does. It's so clear why he's a celebrity within the Tern community. But I'm glad that he's having a lot of fun on his vacation. I got some pictures this morning via text, which I hope that you were both very jealous.
I didn't get any text. I was just about to say something nice too. I was like, I never drink out of this mug, but something drew it to me just now. And it's my Cape Town mug, which is where they are right now. So I think I was just really trying to bring a little bit of Brad here. And then now I'm not on the text thread.
Well, he likes me better because I had texted him before. So it was a reply, but we don't have to admit that. No, I mean, it was a really good week. I was able to post a pretty fun product update yesterday. That was our first product update of 2026, which will go into what we launched. And then even between then and this podcast recording at 11 a.m. Eastern, we've shipped another really exciting feature that I can't wait to talk about. So lots of good stuff.
Ooh, such a good teaser. Ellen, how was your week?
My week has been good. It's been so fun, so full. I've answered over 50 support tickets this week. And then I also did, I think, at least 8 one-on-one live meetings with users. I hosted office hours on Wednesdays about trip building. I've spent a lot of time digging in on some updates that for our support chatbot Finn, who I love. Have also done some things thinking about stuff that I want to talk to Molly about, things that support is seeing that we can ask product to update. Went to the dentist yesterday and have my first cavity ever in my life. That's less of a happy update, but
Kind of a
yeah.
roller coaster of a week there for you.
No.
Well,
Have I
sorry to hear
ever
that.
told you guys what the dentist told me?
No.
No.
Okay. Did you both have wisdom teeth?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't, and the dentist told me if you don't have wisdom teeth, it means that you're more evolved on the evolutionary
Oh,
chain.
you have said this before, and I blocked it out of my head. I was like, that I
Okay,
just can't be
I
true.
just like anytime the dentist comes up, it's a critical need for me to bring that up, that
To
I
bring
did
that.
not have my wisdom teeth.
I'm not surprised by that. If I know anyone who's more evolved, it's definitely you.
Ellie, get the points here. All right. Well, before we jump into the sort of what shipped this week, my week has been really good. I think this was maybe a little bit of a what shipped this week, but also just like one of the things I started doing over break was we've been using this platform called Webflow for our website for a really long time. And it's sort of this like kind of blurs the line between a drag and drop and also sort of like a coding editor. It was like, no code is kind of what they called it. And it was just becoming like really hard to maintain. Like we had major features that we hadn't updated the website because it was like such a difficult chore to get it there. Then we update things and mobile would break. And it was just like the marketing website was like such a chore. Before break, I was kind of talking to Brad and we're like, I wonder with AI, like we should be able to like do something like way more interesting with the website. Like we shouldn't have to use Webflow. And so Overbreak started playing with it and it was just like mind blowing. And so as of yesterday, we officially flipped the switch and I'm going to do a little impromptu kind of screen share here
Can
if
you
it works.
sing a ta-da?
I know it's like, I mean, just like brand new website. If you don't remember the old website, this won't be as exciting, but like, really kind of bringing to life a lot of the features, the fact that Tern's in all one, telling your stories, which by the way, if you haven't done a case study with us, Grace would love to do one with you to tell the story about your impact that Tern's had on your business. We've got the latest updates here. So you can like, instead of having to like dig through a blog post that you can't actually search, like Molly's updates are going to be right here. But then just generally the content experience is way better. You can search for product updates. If you want to see all the events that we're going to be at, whether it's the office hours or whether it's in person, you can actually just kind of come into the events tab and you can now start to say like, okay, show me the events where Tern's going to be at in person. And it will start to load all the different conferences that we're going to, and you can let us know that you're coming. So really excited about that. One of the other things we hear, especially from people who are like considering Tern, is like, what's the value, right? Like helping them understand that there's this consolidation of systems. And so we created this new pricing calculator where if you've got an agency owner or somebody in your network who's thinking about this and they're like, well, like that's more than we pay just for our back office. It's like, well, you get so much more with Tern, as most of our listeners know. And so now you can actually, enter in like, okay, I've got 10 advisors. We're paying, on average for a CRM, a form builder, and an itinerary builder. And let's see the kind of comparison. It's like actually by moving to Tern, when you consolidate all those savings, you're going to be saving thousands of dollars, right? So again, I think just does such a better job telling the story of Tern. It gives us so much more opportunity to sort of like connect people. So take a look. Let us know what you think. As always with Tern, we want feedback. But that's my weekend review and impromptu demo that was not on the agenda. But I am just, it's just so cool. I was telling somebody else, it's like in the age of AI, we talk a lot about this. That website with like the syncs and the connections and all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes would have taken an engineering squad probably a quarter, if not more, to build before. And we just never would have made that investment because it's like just not worth it. But now being able to have like me with like 20% of my time over a couple of weeks, like vibe code that with help from Grace and help with Brad, like it's just amazing. So it's been really cool. And I think just a cool testament to the world that we're living in, this brave new world. But with that, we're going to move into, I think, everybody's favorite section, at least until we get to the tips and tricks for the first time, which is what we shipped this week. And it's a busy week. I feel like we're now back firing on all cylinders. We've made some of the changes that we talked about last week in terms of the structure. And so Molly, take us away with the first updates.
Yeah. So a lot of fun stuff. We talked about so I had the first product update of 2026 yesterday. We had talked about a few of those things because it was from 2 weeks of updates, but the new stuff we have not talked about on FlightPath before. I'm going to start with an exciting hot off the press one that I don't think anyone has found yet or posted about in the Facebook group. I'm not sure. I haven't looked in the last like 10 minutes, but you can now set up an automation that goes to all travelers on a trip or all full access travelers on a trip. And you can set it up to send as individual threads with a first name variable that actually works. which is
Woo!
so huge. It was one of the top voted canny features that we saw. It was just, I was talking to some folks, giving Brianna a shout out here, and she was literally walking me through how she had to apply automations and then like manually edit every single one just to get the level of personalization she was expecting for her clients. Because previously, when you only had the option of sending this email as a group thread, we couldn't use the first name because there could be, 10 people on the group and we don't know which name to use. And just seeing how painful that was to achieve the level of personalization people need without this feature kind of put it over the line as something worth investing in. And so now you can use those automations, you can get that personalization. It actually will default to this behavior now for any new automations you create, because we think this is probably actually what people would prefer to do. But if you'd rather it go as a group thread, you can always, there's a little like checkbox to uncheck that should be pretty obvious in the automation workflow. So huge one.
So cool.
Yeah, hopefully it should go a long way. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say too, I mean, like that example we talked, I think last week, around just like how to give feedback and like in a way that's really helpful. And obviously we talked about canny, and then we also talked about the importance of like contextualizing the workflow. I think that's like just such a good example, whether you send us like send a loom or you attach it to the canny or whatever, but like it's one thing to be like, yell really loudly, I want this thing. A lot of people are yelling at us all the time to do things, right? But to like show us like, here is what I have to do today, and like look at how painful it is, in a way that it just like helps contextualize that, and it really helps us make better prioritization decisions. So obviously this is an incredible win, but I also want to just use that as an example of where it's like show, don't tell, right? The more that you can do that, the more that you can help us actually understand that, the better decisions we can make. So love that.
Yeah, and I do these, Ellen and I both do these new user office hours that we've talked about on the podcast before. And just percentage-wise, the number of people who are like, why doesn't this work? It's just so unintuitive that they can't use the first name variable in their automations when they almost always want to. So hopefully you should also just minimize, we talk a lot about being able to come in as a new user of Tern and things just work as you expect. This is like another little like check against that goal.
So cool. All right. Which one? What update are we going to next? We want to talk about the sort of more behind the scenes one. Now we got the flashy one out of the way.
Yeah. So, our team has been, every once in a while we have these like bigger kind of architecture updates that the team is working on behind the scenes. The latest one this week is on mobile. We had to make some just infrastructure updates to our mobile apps to make sure it was compatible with some latest changes on Android. This was also a blocker for some folks had reported bugs with embedding YouTube videos within our apps. So the latest update actually addresses that bug, which is huge. And we know this is something a lot of folks like to do, is actually embed those videos directly within Tern trips. So yeah, really good to just like get that behind us. It was a decent chunk of work, and it should really help us. It has this other benefit of letting us kind of push updates more easily to the App Store, which was a limitation before. So it should just be easier for us to make important changes to mobile in the future, which is also exciting.
So cool. Before we clicked record, so we're working on the draft agenda. Molly jumps in. She's like, David, you missed like two of the biggest updates that we did. And I'm now like looking at the agenda. I see the next one coming. I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is actually like a pretty big deal for anybody that has ICs, or really even at the individual level. And you have to manage these things that we all hate, which is taxes. So do you want to talk about the updates we made there?
Yes. I mean, talk about somebody bringing to life their pain for us. So previously, it was really, really, really hard to actually look at, 2025 as a pay period and easily get an understanding of all of the commission that you paid out per agent. Like it was actually very difficult to get to that information. You had to build out your own spreadsheet basically outside of Tern. And so we have now built a report. It's available. There's a version for agency admins. There's a version for advisors that doesn't just look at received commission from suppliers. It actually looks at the payouts that you are paying out your agents and that you are earning if you're, an advisor or an agent. And so you can find this. It might be, especially if you're an agency admin and you have a lot of reports, if you go into reporting, it might be like the third page, because the pages are, the reports are ordered on if you visited it recently. And so this is new, so you haven't visited it recently. So make sure you go to that third page and you should see it, and should make, I mean, I know tax season is already really fun, but it should make it even more so.
Even more fun. Your accountant will be so excited, right? That is very, very exciting. All right, we've got, I think, one more quick thing before we get into quality of life without Brad, which is the name for the section today. But we made some updates to editing.
Yeah. Okay. And this one is actually, it seems a little like, oh, is this a big deal? And like, let me tell you, it actually is a very big deal. Like, people are very excited about this.
When you posted the product update in Facebook,
Yeah.
once we finally got that working, the number was like, oh my goodness, like this is the feature I've been waiting for. I'm like, really? Like,
Yes,
really?
I know.
But again, we're surprised every once in a while. So
I know. And the reason it makes sense. Okay. So what we added was now when you are adding supplier cancellation policies, instead of just plain text, you will be able to use our full rich text editor experience to set up those policies. And the reason it matters so much is if you look at a lot of these supplier cancellation policies, it's not a few lines of plain text. It's actually like there's complicated different situations and like if you actually look at the documents these advisors are trying to translate to the traveler so that they actually understand, like by different dates or by different amounts or whatever it is. And there's often tables involved. There's often formatting involved. And the advisor wants to make sure their traveler's informed. Like that's a big part of their job. And before it was like very difficult to properly translate that within that text field. So this actually supports that structured formatting, everything that you're used to in the editor, so that you can, again, set up those policies to better match how they are actually like put together on the supplier side.
so cool. It is, yeah. It's like literally like a legal document, right? It's like in the event of heavy rainfall, then you can cancel under these conditions, right? It's like, okay, yeah, we gotta add some formatting there. All right, so we're now into quality of life. Brad is not here. Usually we joke about quality of life with Brad. But we every week, right? We have like some of the bigger things that we want to do. We also are like constantly listening. We're constantly looking for those like little improvements that we can make just to make your experience with Tern a little bit better. And to kick us off this week actually is going to be Ellen with a quality of life update that she advocated for based on what you were seeing on support. So Ellen, tell us about that.
Yeah. So I think first I want to say it's just so fun to like list updates live, like verbalize them in a list like this. Cause when we're listing these things, I'm picturing like users by name who I've talked to about these things and like seeing your faces and being like, oh, I wonder how like that person reacted, or like, do they know? I want to be sure they know. So like that's super fun for me to think of the actual people. So yeah, talking about a quality of life update, this was something that was important to me. I literally think I brought this up to Molly like last week. So that just should show maybe like Molly's speed or like Tern speed in general, kind of insane. But now departing agents can now still view bookings from the agency that they're leaving. So like you're leaving your agency, but you still have bookings you're owed commission for from that agency. You can now still see them. So that ensures transparency even after you're leaving an agency, which you couldn't do before. So that's great.
Yeah. And on the agency side, this was also just like kind of a pain because all of a sudden you'd have to deactivate an agent so they can't book things moving forward with your agency, but then they can't see their payment. Why am I blanking? Their payment, the little receipt things that we show that I really don't know why those
Paid
words
status?
were. No, but it's okay. Payment statements. They can't see their payout statements. They can't see their payout statements anymore. That little like email that kind of links them to the payout statement wouldn't work. If they have upcoming commission, they can't track that it is owed. So again, these payments could happen 6 months after an agent departs, leaves the agency, and like that is just it just becomes kind of a nightmare to track. So just really big props to Ellen for pushing for that and advocating for that. And it turned out it was like a pretty quick change on our side. And you know how we love those, like the listeners, if there are things that, ooh, this could actually take us like 20 minutes or even less. And we know how much it matters. Like those things we love knocking those off all the time.
And it's like always kind of a little bit of a surprise too, but I'll highlight two quick stories on this one that I think are really special. So one is, this is like a great illustration of how we work. We actually have a goal at the company this year to sort of engineer down support per user, because we think like every like support ticket, especially if it's like, how does this thing work, or does this look like, it is some friction point, right, for users. And so we have Ellen, that's what sort of Ellen was alluding to earlier, like working with actually a squad of engineers to say like every week, how are we making things more intuitive? How are we making Fin smarter? And so like you'll see, I think like hopefully even more of these. The other thing that was really cool, kind of a fun reflection for the week, is I was having a meeting with it's like one of the top host agencies in the country, and this person has been like super respected in the industry for a long time. And they were asking questions around like, well, what if advisors want to leave? How do we handle, how many tiers can you support? Right. Like, and it was just so fun to be able to like pull up the thing, be like, yeah, if they leave, like these things go away, they still access this information, right? But like, it's all handled. Like, what about the multi-host structure? And they literally was like at 2 or 3 tiers. I'm like, oh, it's actually a flexible number of tiers, like because we know there may be like parent companies and all these different things involved. And it was at the end, this person who again, sort of looked up to for a really long time in the industry goes like, wow, like, I have to commend you. You guys have really, really done your research and understand this industry in a way that like we just haven't seen before. And it was just like so cool because like it's like years in the making. I remember so many conversations across supports around product being like, no, like I very distinctly remember I was in the Fort Lauderdale airport debating with Molly, like what needs to happen in terms of if people leave or not. And like now it's working, right? It's like paying off. So anyway, it's like such a little thing this kind of making it easier but it's like things that other systems just don't support or haven't thought of. And it's really cool just to be able to continue to make these structural updates. A little thing, but that's really a big thing. Let's keep going. Quality of life. We made some updates on kind of the way that forms are attached.
Yeah, this one, big props to David Tilley on my team. He is often scheming with some of our power users via email. And I believe like Walter pointed out to him that when he's attaching forms with emails, which is a great feature that I bet is like an undiscovered, not as many people know they can do this as they should, which we should highlight at some point. But anyways, by attaching a form to an email, sometimes travelers were actually missing that there was a form attached. And so he and Ursula, our wonderful designer, collaborated on like, how do we make it just a little more actionable, the form that's attached to the email. And now there's like a nice little button that's like view form. So that's just a nice little polish item, but saves that client back and forth, improves the client experience, improves the time to get the information you need to sell the trip, to make those bookings. So that is very exciting. And then we also added a really small thing, but like just a little nice X on the photo library. So when you're trying to do keyword searches, instead of having to like backspace all of your text, it's just like a little boom, click. So we're not saving clicks, but we're saving keystrokes. Maybe we're saving those.
Yeah, it's
Does that
sort of the
count?
same. But actually, as I was like processing this, like actually that is like super annoying. Like like every time you have got to go delete. So that is super nice. Just those little things, right? That add up.
Okay.
All right. With that, we're going to move into a new section, which is, again, sort of inspired by a lot of the comments we got on Facebook. So another plug for the Facebook community. It's been so cool to watch that continue to just like get more and more engagement. But one of the things is like tips and tricks, right? There's all these like things that exist in Tern that if you don't know about, right, like may hold you back, right? So we're going to try and introduce every week some tip or trick that will help you level up your use of Tern. And Ellen's going to kick us off this week with some pro tips around optionality. So Ellen, take it away.
It's my podcast debut and I'm going to share my screen.
Pretty scary. High risk. We'll see if you do the cascading window thing that is Molly's signature.
Okay. She did
Wow.
it. She's
I do it?
wonderful. No, you did it perfectly. You made me look bad, Ellen. Hate you.
Okay, it's very hard to make Molly look bad, so don't put that on me. Oh, guys, we're going to talk about something that I think like I talked about this 3 times with users live this week. So I thought it would be great to just walk through today. It's when you're going to use an options block on a trip and turn versus when to use room options, which are within a single lodging item. Yeah, I already said that. I talked to a couple people about it, so let's do it. So options blocks are really great when you want to give your clients the ability to pick between multiple of the same type of trip components. So like maybe 3 different project expedition tours. You think they'd love all 3, but you don't know for sure. You want them to pick. You could do that. You can also, you can add those 3 different tours to this option block, but it works really good for hotels. And this is where I've seen confusion this week. So you want to do 3 totally different hotel options. That's in an option block. If you want 3 different room options at the same hotel, you use the room options feature. So let's do an option block really fast. You drag it over from the right. And I'm just going to call this hotel options. Even typing while sharing kind of freaks
Typing
me.
on the podcast, it's tough, right? Yeah.
Okay, let's do 3 lodging. These can be random. One of them I want to be my Plaza Hotel. This is like my favorite hotel in New York. What's it called? New York Plaza? Close. We'll just do this. This is random. This is not the right one that I want, but it's fine. It's fine, guys. because this part doesn't matter. I just really want us to see that there can be 3 different ones inside here, right? We're tracking. We'll do just another, like maybe a Marriott in New York. Trying to keep a New York theme, because I said that's where I live. Okay, so 2 totally different hotels, right? When you preview this, so you can see what the travelers see, the option block looks like this.
We can't actually see.
We are going to need to see, you're going to have to change it because it popped open a different tab.
This tab instead.
There we go.
There you go.
Great. Okay,
Nice.
it looks like this. So obviously you would add more info here, like view details, but I actually didn't have to do that much because it pulled in from our hotel resort database. So like I didn't even add this. That's saving me time. But they would select their option, move through the process this way. Let's go back to the other tab. Do I have to switch tabs again or do I have to share again?
Looks
This
like you've
is why I
shared
do
again.
the cascading thing is because of this, but
Because
there
of
you
this
go.
back and forth, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. Now we have something that we can tease Ellen about, honestly.
There you
It's
go.
like kind of perfect, right?
What we need. That's what we need. I'm very hard to tease, so never make a mistake. Okay, so that's an option block, right? Room options, on the other hand, should be used on one single lodging item. So that exists on any lodging item. It also works for cabins on cruises. Eyeball emoji, you know the one I'm talking about? That's what I'm picturing. So I'm going to show how to do this. I really want this to be, what's this hotel called, guys? There it is, the Plaza New York. That's the one.
There you go.
Clearly I need to go there since it's on my mind. Okay, so the way that this is going to work, you have your one lodging item, then you go to rooms, then you're going to click this convert to options button. So that makes it so you can add multiple different rooms. It's going to alert you. It's going to say like, switching this to options will remove existing travelers, prices. That's okay. This is a test trip, right? But pay attention to the alert if it comes up. Don't just skip it like me. Okay, then you're just going to add rooms. And I wrote down the rooms. I'm thinking like a king room. And then I also want to add another one. So there's not a limit on options here. You can add a bunch if you want. You could present every room in the hotel if you wanted. But this one's, I'm going to put penthouse suite. Just,
It sounds fun.
it's a dream. It has a staircase inside it, which my apartment in New York doesn't have a staircase. So really exciting. Okay, once you have your options, obviously you'll add all the things. Then you want to be sure the last step for when you're using the room options is you switch this to price per room. So you add the different prices. So I actually don't know how much these cost, but I'm just going to guess. This is like a $20,000 suite. Okay, that's how that works. I want to show you now how it looks like on the itinerary. So like this is an option block. This is room options. So you can tell it's room options now because it says 2 room options starting at the price. And then if we preview, I got to switch the tabs thing again. Did it work?
We
Yes.
gotcha.
This is what it looks like differently. That's the option block versus just the lodging item. See what it says 2 room options. Click select. Obviously, you'll add more info. Like I said, they can select from there. So that's how you do it.
And I think like this is, we talk a lot about this like optionality, right? But these two things like working together is such a powerful driver of like, I want to send my clients something once and I want to try and cut down on the back and forth, right? Because every opportunity for the back and forth is an opportunity to like lose the sale, right? Like, or for it to stall out, right? You want to make it like when you're thinking about it, when it's top of mind, I can go through and get every decision that I need from a client. So Ellen, when you think about the questions that you see on support around this optionality, you sort of teed this up a little bit, but is it a lot of the when do I use option block versus room options and like that type of flow? Because these also stack, right? You could put a hotel with room options in an option block, but what are the questions that you see come up on support about this quite often?
So what I saw, which really like prompted me to think about this today, is just basically people are kind of like wasting time with an option block because you're like doing, I'm going to share again. You're like doing the room option thing, but in an option block. So like you don't need to add the Plaza Hotel 3 times to this option block and then like do like the king room in here, the penthouse room on here. Like actually you just need to build the Plaza Hotel once and then add the rooms in there. So even like that's a big time saver. And I'm all about like similar to Molly, like I don't want you to waste your time. Like that's why Tern exists, to save you time, right? So
and it makes sense, right? That like I think it's helpful feedback, right? Knowing you got to go to rooms, convert to option, right? I think like that's sort of an interesting thing as we continue to think about this. But the that sort of distinction, like option blocks are super prominent And it used to be our guidance before we had room options used to be use the option block and duplicate the logic activity, right? So there's sort of that like learned behavior, I think, for even some of our kind of OG users. And I think, it maybe isn't super discoverable. So I think that's really cool. Molly, any thoughts or things that you want to share on that feature that kind of pop into your head?
Well, it's a little bit of a spoiler for my week ahead, but the big question I'm asking myself is how can we make it easier for clients to do this if these things are in a package?
Ooh, wow. Teaser of all teasers right there.
Mhm.
So, okay, well, that is the perfect segue to our week ahead. And by the way, I would say like a lot of the people here who are like that watch Flight Path every single week, like probably also have tips and tricks or things that they've seen people miss or like features that they don't know about. Like, so help us out. Like, put in the comments like what are some of the pro tips that you've seen or that you've used that you think would be helpful to share. We would love to use that. We're going to try and crowdsource some of these. We obviously have lots of them, but let's go ahead into our final section of the podcast, which is sort of looking ahead to the next week. We have a short week here at Tern. We're off on Monday, but we can do a lot in 4 days. So we will kick off, Molly, with you. And you sort of spoiled this a little bit, but what are the big things that you're thinking about next week?
So that's one question on my mind. Another question on my mind is, as an agency owner, how might I indicate a trip is an agency lead and have that lock commission? It's a big question. And another big question on my mind is, as an agency owner, how might I set terms and conditions at the agency level and just have it work for all of my agents? So some fun questions we will be answering very soon that I think people will be very excited about.
Wow, that is going to get a lot of people, I think, listening to this pretty interested. And remember like 45 seconds ago when I said we can get a lot done in 4 days? Like, I mean, just even thinking about those 3 questions
Yeah,
is
I
kind of
can't
insane.
promise they will have shipped by the end of next week, but those questions are very much on my mind, I will say, as of right now.
I love it. Ellen, how about you? Anything kind of on your radar for next week?
I mean, I don't even know where to start. I always have a lot of things that I'm like thinking about. I think next week, I'm just like really excited to spend some time with Finn. I think that Finn already is so cool, already answers like so many support tickets with users, but then the support team has been really coming together to all train Finn. So we're each spending at least 1 hour a week, which it used to just be like kind of done by one person on support. We're really sharing the load. So Finn, like I said, already amazing, gonna get even better. I'm gonna work on Finn this afternoon. Basically just reading through conversations and seeing when Finn is giving a wrong answer and then taking that answer and being like, Finn, this is wrong. Fix it. I love you.
I'm so excited about that. Just like generally having more people involved. But I think the sort of like magic of Finn, right? If you can get Finn to have the right answer every time, if you could give it the right context about your business, like you could be traveling halfway around the world, right? You need support on a weekend or a holiday or some crazy time. Like Finn's always there, always responding immediately. And so we were investing, our support team's resources, like Ellen and the team, right? Really focused on, I want to audit every single conversation. I want to make sure that we're like really tracking, we're working with our engineers. And so watching that get better and better, I think is going to be super exciting. And so stay tuned.
And have we talked about on this podcast? I can't forget. I can't remember in what context this came up, but it was either something I was reading or we were talking about where actually what's kind of cool about some of these enhancements to chatbots is it can actually like decrease the barrier of someone just like asking lots of stupid questions where you might previously in the pre-AI world be like, oh, I don't really want to bother, turn support or have to wait for a while. I'll just figure it out by myself. But it's becoming easier and easier to just like stream of consciousness, ping lots of questions, get instant answers that are very good. And that should just make it so much easier for new users, especially, but for anyone really to get the support that they need. And so a lot of like companies, it's like, oh, I want to reduce support volume. And it's almost like, no, we actually want to almost increase the number of people where it just feels so easy to ask questions and get those instant answers.
Yeah, we like literally had this debate in our leadership team meeting. It's like, well, should we engineer down support volume? And I think, Molly, you flagged that exact point. Like, no, we don't want to engineer down like support volume as defined by like conversations with Finn. We actually want to see that go up, but we want the number of conversations that have to escalate for a human to go down, right? Because like Finn just knows the answer, and there's like so many cool things. Like one of the, I know you probably have some insights on this too. Like one of the hardest things to debug are workflows and automations. Like, and Ellen, you probably have a lot of like, what's your process? Somebody reaches out and they're like, this workflow is not working.
Yeah.
Which we
Well,
get that ticket. Like, what do you do?
usually when that happens, I have to say, like, tell me the name of the workflow, right? Like, if you're reaching out to support, guys, tell me the name of your trip, even because you're looking at it, but I can't see it. So just be like, it's called this, and the workflow is called this. That will help you get an answer so much faster. So then I don't have to ask you, right? But so I usually ask for that, and then I go look at it, and then you have to see like, okay, like what exactly is wrong? Is there an email that's going that shouldn't be being sent? Is there a task that is not being created? Like, is there a date missing? Is a toggle not turned on? So there's a lot of steps. I think workflows and automations, I really like reviewing a workflow and then making a Loom video to say like, this is how it's supposed to work. This is what I'm seeing is not working. Here's how you fix it. So you have kind of like a live demo from me, and our whole team does that.
And I think like at one point I made a spreadsheet. It was like there's like 20 different things that like can go into configuring workflow and automation that like you have to sort of check. And so these like support tickets on our side can take 20, 30 minutes. You're building a Loom, maybe longer. In the future, like if Finn securely had the context of your workflows and automations, and it could literally just be like, oh, I see it. I can just instantly check all of those things and tell you what's going wrong. Like how much better is that for everybody, right? So this is what we get super excited about as we continue to level up support and really think about like, we don't want to lose the humanity. We will always have an incredible support team. That support team will spend some of their cycles investing in Finn, some of the cycles one-on-one meetings, and then some of them continue to answer those questions that AI can't answer. But we think that having this kind of AI option is going to be huge. So super excited about that. I'll wrap us up here. My week ahead, we are launching our first insurance integration, soft launching hopefully today, fingers crossed. So if you're an Arch Roamrite user, and you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume that you maybe skew more of a beta user. You might be able to, over the weekend, actually go and start to quote your first policies. And if you run into any issues, please let us know. Send in a note to support, send in a note to us. We want to get that. But assuming everything goes well with that sort of soft, like quiet beta period over the weekend and early into next week, we will have a big launch event with Arch as our first insurance partner on Friday of next week. So you should be getting an invite to that. You'll find all the details. We do want to make sure the kind of soft, quiet beta period goes okay, but before we blow it up and do the invites, that's why you're not seeing a lot about it yet. But really excited about that partnership. And we've got some others that'll be fast following very quickly here. So it's going to be a pretty epic short week for us. But as always, thank you for tuning into Flight Path. If you've made it this far and you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do that. We definitely love to see the subscriber numbers going up. Leave a comment on what tips and tricks you think we should talk about in the future if you're a Tern Power user, or what questions you have. If you're not a Tern Power user, you're tuning in for the first time, we'd love to include those as well. And keep the feedback coming on the new format. As everything in Tern, we're always leveling up. But with that, we appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll see you next week.